John, it's up, it's down, it's good, it's not good. What is going on with the American economy? Reports last week had retail sales up 0.3% in February, but consumer confidence still in the tank. So is this a recovery, or is there a fear that there's another recession ahead? We have two schools of thought this morning. Joining us from Florida is Ned Riley. He's the CEO of Riley Asset Management. Here in New York, Peter Schiff is the president and CEO of Euro Pacific Capital. He's the author of Crash Proof 2.0. And he's running for a Republican Senate seat in Connecticut. Gentlemen, good morning. Welcome. I have to start off by saying you both sound like you live in a different country from where you approach what's going to happen next. Ned, you're from the country of Florida right now, so we'll go to you first. You think that things are looking good. You have bright prospects for stocks, and you think this economy is snapping back nicely. Tell me why.
I do, Christine. First of all, I think from the employment situation, we have reduced the number of people losing jobs. This month, we are actually going to start to create jobs on the plus side to 50 to 100,000. Retail sales, everybody said the consumer is dead. Retail sales are running at a 3.5% rate. Real GDP is running at a 4% rate. Profits year over year are growing at 35%. And everybody starts talking about the deficit. You should look back in time. As a percent of GDP, deficit got to about 6% of GDP back in 1980 because of the stimulation applied to the economy. I think the same case today. We're going to see a diminution in the percent to GDP of the deficit as we move into 2011 and 2012.
Right, well, Ned, you know, Peter Schiff, I mean, he's been talking about the deficit and concerns about government spending and the government being too involved. You've been telling me this for 2 years now.
You know, Ned's almost as optimistic on the economy now as he was right before it fell off the edge of a cliff. But, you know, the problem in our economy is all we're seeing now is more air being blown back into the bubble, and it won't stay there. You know, the fact that consumers are spending more money now, that's part of the problem. We need to be saving money, right? The problem in our economy is not a lack of spending, but a lack of savings and a lack of production. And everything the government has done in the last year and a half has interfered with the market's attempt to restore balance to our economy.
You think there could be a double-dip recession? You think that we could go back down the hill again?
I think it's not really a double dip. It's the same recession, and more aptly a depression. You know, we have a little bit of a blip as we're spending more borrowed money, but we're digging ourselves into a deeper hole. We're going to have to pay a huge price for the last year of phony consumption and bigger government. The next dip is going to be much bigger than the one in 2008, and we're not going to get out of it.
Now, Ned, you're not as concerned about these deficits and spending all this borrowed money, and I want you to explain to me why. You think we're going to be able to get our deficits, our debt as a share of our GDP down, as a share of our economy down. How? I mean, you're going to have big, huge, mega growth to do that, aren't you?
Well, first of all, let's look at it. The GDP, you know, the percent of GDP of the deficit is a numerator and denominator case. If GDP is growing, if corporate profits are growing, tax revenues increase. And as the economy strengthens, you have less going out for unemployment insurance, food stamps, and everything else. This has happened since the beginning of time.
None of that
for the last 100 years. 100 years we've run the biggest deficits during the bottom of recessions.
None of that is happening. There is no economic growth. Ned, the government, the deficit is $1.5 trillion a year. The federal government is spending almost $4 trillion a year. It is crushing the life out of the economy. There's no way our economy can grow. Sure it is. Wake up and look at reality.
You guys, let me tell you
the reality. I'm looking at reality at 4% growth, 30% profit
What is growing?
I'm looking at people.
Ned, all that's growing is the size of government and the size of our debts. We're not producing more stuff. We're not manufacturing more products. We're borrowing and spending more money.
History.
Okay, let me bring it to micro. Let me bring it down micro. Okay, we're talking about the macro here, and people at home are sitting there thinking, wait a second. So these are two very different perspectives on the economy. What does it mean for me getting ready for work with a mortgage to pay? Ned, your forecast, what does it mean for the person who's going to work right now?
For the person that's going to work right now is still going to be concerned about job security and earning enough money. And Peter is right. The savings rate in this country is too low. People have been using their home equity and their net worth grown by the stock market, basically. These things are improving. Net worth in the household factor has gone up 14% because of the stock market improvement.
But it's not going to stay up.
Now, what about the person who's getting ready to go? And frankly, there's a lot of people getting up this morning who are not going to work. What, Peter, does your forecast mean for them? Higher taxes, lower services?
Unfortunately, it means higher taxes, much higher inflation, higher interest rates. The stock market rally is not real. The housing market has got a long way to fall. It's a real big problem. The government is making it much worse. Unfortunately, your biggest enemy, if you still have a job, is Washington, D.C. They're destroying the economy. They're borrowing all the capital out of the economy. There's nothing left for the private sector.
Right.
You know, we can't grow the government and the economy at the same time. We have to make a choice. I want to grow the economy. I want to shrink the government.
Newsflash. Peter Schiff just said he wants to grow the government, but he meant the economy.
I want to grow the economy.
Peter Schiff, thank you so much. CEO of Euro Pacific Capital, also a candidate for Republican Senate seat in the state of Connecticut. Connecticut. Ned Riley, Riley Asset Management, who is incredibly optimistic on the stock market. Ned, thank you so much for both of you with your polar opposite, John, forecasts on the economy and where we go from here. John?
Isn't that why Truman wanted a one-armed economist?
I know. On the one hand, on the other hand, on the other hand.
I never say that.
Up next, our building.